grandparents had a tortoise, it would run away.
I remember you telling a story about that one time.
One day he
How
just
long
didn't
was
come
it
back.
gone for?
He'd be gone for days. It happened a lot.
You ever put socks on turtles' feet? You know, they walk so funny. They lift their feet up real high in the air like then they shake them.
You know,
Or I'm thinking of cats.
You're thinking of cats.
Also dogs.
Oh my
Basically,
god. How did that even happen? Turtles and cats just look so alike.
Oh yeah, they behave the exact same way.
You ever heard that song, Turtles and Whores? Well, see, they have a lot in common that you may not realize. See, they both hate the kitchen, turtles and whores, you know, and when you're done, you just drop them by the river.
Boats and hoes?
It's a really cute song. You guys can look it up later. Turtles and Whores is one of them Bob and Tom tunes.
Oh, of course it'd be a Bob and Tom one.
I spent like 2 hours looking for that song about fucking a moose, and I couldn't find it, and I'm still mad.
I still don't know what song you're talking about.
I couldn't find it.
Nah, yeah,
I couldn't find a damn thing on it.
I think you just made it up and you think it's real.
No.
No, it's an old Canadian folk song. Yeah, I remember in the second verse they go on about maple syrup for lube. Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
That sounds like terrible lube.
I guess if you've got
well, if you've got a Canadian penis.
if you've got enough of it, it'll work for a minute.
Apparently, Christians really like turtles because they symbolize fertility, longevity, and virtue. And like they were really interested in the patterns on their shell, like it was some heaven and earth symbol or some shit like
What?
that. Yeah, I don't know. They were doing a lot of drugs. That's what happens when you go in the
Fertility and
woods.
virtue sound like they conflict.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's see. The virtue is because they're very slow, so they're, quote, patient, which is a virtue, I guess. And
Turtles
Well,
are
also understand with the whole Christian thing, you know, it's, you know, once you're married together,
turtles are known
procreate
for producing
by
a
flying.
the fertility
That's
comes
fine.
from they produce a lot of eggs. So they're like, oh,
well,
this
yeah,
is
since
fertile.
a lot of the
They didn't know that. They just assumed fertile.
well,
turtles
no,
are a big part of a lot of religions.
mm-hmm,
Now that I think about it, like especially like East Asian and stuff.
yeah,
So maybe
yeah,
we're
that's actually a point.
maybe we're worshiping the wrong things.
Are we missing something? Yeah.
Like maybe there's something
Like
to
they don't know
this.
that like over half those eggs are gonna die.
Well, most of them hatch. It's just a matter of do they
They
live...
don't make it to
They
the
don't-
water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the main thing.
See, I was going through a thought experiment the other day. I was like, all those baby turtles, they have to run from their hole to the beach to the water. And I was like, I had to ask, like, are the shells soft? And I think they are, because otherwise,
yeah, they're
I
fairly
imagined,
soft after they're hatched.
like, if you get 100 baby turtles and they're just, every year they're dying in droves, there would be piles of little baby shells, little baby turtle shells that, you know, the creatures have left behind. It would look like Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but with, like, little baby turtle seashells.
What do you think seashells are?
Right? Yeah, just piles of seashells, just piles of corpses and skeletons.
They just get scraped.
Nature just reuses. That's all it does.
Now that you mention that, like, I suppose if you did live near a beach that like had those turtles, I can only imagine the amount of like mini turtle shells are gonna come out in like bird shit, or that they're just gonna like leave all around, like clog up your gutters and everything.
Well, yeah, they showed every animal eating them. Like, even small crabs or just anything will eat a baby turtle if it can find it. And I was like, so do they just suck out the gooey inside and then leave the shell on the beach?
Yeah, like a spider.
Like a nice necklace, just baby turtle shells.
No.
I can only imagine that. You're right. Everything eats them. Like even things that don't generally go seeking out other things are like,
They're easy pickings.
yeah, they're like,
There's-
oh, easy pick. But I can only imagine they got to be like delicious though.
There was actually this
Oh, super
documentary
tender, like turtle veal.
of like this leopard or
I
this
can imagine
cheetah.
that.
It found a beach that it knew, like it saw a sea turtle on the beach, so it went and ate that sea turtle, and then it would come back every year. The sea turtle was coming to lay eggs, and just pick a sea turtle and eat it, and it was very unusual.
Well, now I'm just thinking of like going and netting a bunch of them, because like some people do that. Like they'll go out and they'll net like a bunch of them when they hatch, and then they try to sell them like poachers and stuff. But if they're delicious enough, just go and net a bunch of them, and then you just kind of have like a crawdad fry where you kind of like throw them all into like
Ooh, yeah.
yeah, and just fry them up.
I
and
would
then,
never let you
then
do
just
that.
Like, then just like crawfish, you just kind of crack it, suck it out, and then toss the shell.
There's real dim lights in your restaurants because everybody's just throwing the shells on the floors.
Wait, why would you need
walk
to
around
net
your
them?
table,
Can't you just
crunch,
pick up the
crunch.
eggs and take them? You have to dig them up, pick them up, and take them.
I guess you could do that, but
If you're thinking about netting them, you're talking about when they've already hatched at that point. They're not eggs anymore.
well, yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about gently placing the net on top of the hole they birth out of. As they go running towards the ocean, they're all just in a net.
I mean, I could steal the eggs, and then once they hatch, then yeah, you just toss them all in a bag.
So you're talking about crawdadding actual live baby turtles and then sucking out the insides of baby turtles. Wouldn't you just eat the baby turtle?
Yeah, you're eating the baby turtle.
You said suck them out like crawdads. Like
yeah, like you
crawdads.
crack the
Suck 'em out
shell,
of
and
the
then you
shell.
suck out the meat. It's just like you do a crawfish. Or not crawfish.
A gusher or a Capri Sun.
Crawdads.
You know that's not like... You know the shell is actually the rib cage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You crack it
I
open,
guess
and
you would
suck
be
out
sucking
the
up mostly organs. But
Yeah.
if you boil it long enough, it would just be kind of like a protein soup.
I was
And
like,
there wouldn't
that's
be
our...
no poop in there because it's, I mean...
They haven't had a
bread.
They
chance
hadn't
to eat
had a
it.
Yeah,
chance to
they're
have a
fresh.
first meal.
It's as tender as can be. Or it's like
Well, no, their
Probably
their meal
soft.
comes from the eggs because that's like the same way with like women, you know, they're feeding their baby and like, you know, they take a shit out there, but the yolk of an egg and most eggs is like the meal for that gives nutrients to like let them grow and stuff. So like that is like their first really long ass meal. So there might be some poop in there somewhere.
So now you gotta like squeeze, like now you gotta squeeze them before you toss them in the boiling pot to get them to shit.
Of course, I don't know the difference between like reptilian eggs and bird eggs. Probably not like a huge difference unless they're very closely related, but
I'm just picturing Salt
I don't
Bay
know.
over the
It
over
sounds
the
like we'd
pot,
have to do a lot of
dropping his salt into the...
It sounds like we'd have to do some culinary experimenting.
I'm not letting you eat baby sea turtles.
But what if they're delicious?
I don't give a shit. They go in the ocean.
I eat lots of things from the ocean.
I don't care. You're not going to eat an endangered thing from the
How about
ocean.
for
I
every
have.
one that we
I'm
harvest,
not going to
we
let
throw
you
one
do
in
it
the ocean?
anymore.
Yeah, because red snapper is technically endangered off the coast of Florida. They did open it up for a season, and I got lucky to fish them that time. But
Then they're not actually protecting it, whereas people are actively protecting sea turtles because of their low population.
oh no, they're protected. They just let people catch them for like a small amount of time to see like where's their numbers at.
Yeah, a couple months ago when Texas froze over, everybody ran outside, grabbed the sea turtles, and pulled them into the hotels.
I don't think that's really
So to
protecting
save
them
their
to see
lives.
where their numbers are at, though, because you
They
can
had
do
to
that
stay there
without
for a
having to
couple
catch
days
them and
until it
take
got
them home
warm
and
enough
eat
to
them.
let 'em out again.
It's like
Oh,
the
I didn't know about
like
that.
people
Yeah, it's really
actively
interesting
protect
pictures
manatees.
of
You are not
hotel
allowed to
lobbies full of
harm
sea
manatees,
turtles.
drive really
That's
fast,
actually
do
pretty
all
cool.
this
Yeah,
other
I should
stuff.
look
Like
those
you were
up.
not allowed to catch them or do anything with manatees, and their numbers did bounce back after a while.
Yeah, but they did the same thing with snapper, and then they opened them for like 2 weekends to let people fish them to see like, oh, what's their numbers around the reefs?
Yeah, but
Because
you
they're
don't.
like, oh, maybe they're not on the endangered list anymore, and then they decided, oh, they're still on the endangered
I'm
list.
pretty sure you can like determine numbers without having. I think that's just an excuse to catch and eat some red snapper.
You're gonna get way better numbers that way, though.
I feel like maybe leave it alone for a little bit longer and let their numbers bounce back. That just seems like another excuse to catch and eat them. Yeah, if people are gonna do what they're gonna do, though. So
If you eat a red snapper, you will catch herpes.
I ate a lot of it. I don't think I have herpes.
Where do you find your red snapper?
Off the coast of Florida.
that's where all the herpes is, Florida.
Right, I was getting my red snapper in Florida alleys.
Hardy har har.
Har har har.
Oh.
See, this is on that autistic test. Do you get jokes easily? Slightly disagree.
Define a joke. Okay, so yes.
I'm more surprised that I wasn't even on the borderline.
Right, Silas was like 26 and Tamsin was 27.
The
so they were, like,
questions-
right on
So
the
that makes
borderline.
that means they are borderline.
Right, yeah, but both of them were like, we don't feel borderline, and I'm like, I'm 37, like I'm way past the you have it mark, Not even the borderline mark.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, no, I think I've got it.
There's way too much room for bias, and the questions are vague. Like like the question, you
Yeah,
like
they're
doing
meant to be.
activities with other people. I'm like, it depends on the activity.
It
really.
depends on the people.
Yeah, that too. And I'm like,
I don't like just doing anything with anybody.
anyone. It's like,
I like doing certain things with certain people.
I looked at the questions when we were like on the way to the liquor store, and all I thought was, "What is this, MySpace? Am I figuring out which Twilight character I am?"
Right? It was a basic ass question. I mean, it's like Asperger's.com. Like,
Wait,
it's
what
pretty much.
what did you want to discuss other than your panic of I'm probably autistic?
Guys, do you think I'm autistic?
Well,
How autistic do I come off?
That was the whole thing. I was like, I feel autistic. Let me take this test. It's a bit. Like, I had a bad score. It's like, let me get all my friends to take this test, and I know like practically 6 people that have taken it now, and nobody's even close to me. So
I've met people on the spectrum, and you don't really strike me as that. Not saying that you're not, but like, because everyone has their own inner dialogue, perceptions of things, and that things that could lead to you feeling you might have developed your own means to interact with the world that appears normal, which is really more common for females than males. That's why males are more diagnosed, because they have a harder time in social situations. But it doesn't mean you might not have it. So that's why I was, just get a psychologist and
Plus, there's also the idea of being a functional autistic.
yeah. Like
well, yeah,
a
that's the
functional
thing.
alcoholic.
If I were autistic, I'd clearly function enough.
If you're functioning
But-
in society and you're happy, I wouldn't
Right,
worry
yeah,
about it.
there's almost no reason to go seek a diagnosis, because even then, it's a lot of hassle and a lot of money. And the way I looked it up was like, the feedback I was getting was that you pretty much have to convince your doctor you have it, because there's no real way to test for it.
No, there's not.
So,
You would
like-
have to show very struggling signs of interacting with the world, and because you can't seem to perceive people or things around you.
Right?
it's-
And even if you got a diagnosis, there's almost no. There's not like any. I don't want to say the word reward, but there's no good consequence. It's not like you get
can
to
be
carry
one of
around
those
a paper.
positive outcome.
Yeah, you don't just get to go around and be like, "Oh, I'm autistic, so I get to do this or that."
I got exceptions in life, guys.
Don't you remember when Peter was?
Well, yeah, that's exactly where my mind went. Yeah,
Sorry,
just
sorry.
bursting into, "Sorry, I'm retarded. Sorry, I'm retarded."
It's perfect. And look, it's going to be really easy for you to convince your doctor that you're autistic. Just tell him how into Yu-Gi-Oh you are.
And also just, along the lines, you get to burn your wife with a fryer.
Dude, if Indiana ever gets medical marijuana, I'll have to go in just to be like, "I'm autistic. I'm so autistic."
Yeah, but can't you just
If
say
they let you smoke for autism, I'm not sure if that's something.
But didn't you say Garfunkel and Oates? Can't you just say I'm overweight, give me weed?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think that's another thing. I could just be like, "I'm fat, give me weed," or I sweat too much. I had a nightmare. Here's some pot.
I'm an insomniac. Here you go.
Thank you. I have terrible anxiety. Thank you.
I just want. I'm bummed when I'm not high. Oh, you know what? Here you go.
I worry a lot.
I think Ron White said that. Yeah, he's like, "I'm bummed when I don't have any weed."
I just go to the Key and Peele sketch where he's just like, "What do you have?" AIDS. You don't have AIDS. Syphilis. No.
It doesn't need to be.
I like how he knows.
Something from this century. Yeah. he keeps being like, you can say anything.
Lou Gehrig's.
Yeah, he just keeps going. He just keeps saying ridiculous things.
I have not
and then
seen this one.
Oh yeah, and then finally he just smacks him across the face. And he's like, "Does your face hurt, Mr. Johnson?" Yes. Then there you go.
I like how he would know all those words specifically, but not enough to really to figure out how to get the weed.
Well, of course not, because all he did was probably just quickly Google diseases.
But not how to get weed from Guy.
No.
Okay.
God, to think
He did what the average white man does when they first go for that stuff. Like, how do I get this one now that they just made marijuana illegal for medical stuff?
Except they don't tell you until after the fact that if you do get a medical weed card, you can't buy a gun anymore in that state.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wait, which state?
Any state with medical marijuana.
Yeah.
If
you have a medical marijuana license, you are not. You will then no longer be able to buy a gun.
Wow. Because I guess it's like kind of just like you're signing up to say that you're always impaired.
That you have a likely chance of being on average having an impairment of doing
it's
that.
honestly just a way for them to.
It's like, but it's not the same thing. It's like because then you need like an alcohol license. Like it's the same. I feel like weed and alcohol are the same concept. If you're not sober, you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, at that point, like a lot of people don't want you to smoke weed and drive. So like they could be like, oh, you have a medical weed card. You're probably high. You shouldn't be driving. So like, is that what they're gonna do next? Take away licenses from people?
No, it's. Look, it's one of those things that a majority of the places that have the medical marijuana, like that implemented medical marijuana early,
I wouldn't be
very
surprised
like
if we
left-leaning
could
areas, and they don't want you to have guns to begin with.
Implement like it would be a long ways off, but like a finger stick blood test, or like you got to pee in this cup, and if it turns out positive, you get a ticket later, some shit like that. But there's no good way to actually test for it since
in a few decades we're gonna have self-driving cars. It's gonna be less of an issue.
Yeah, okay. Except the self-driving car. I like that it will save you before it saves people on the road or the street.
Oh, is it? Is that how it prioritizes?
No.
Life?
I thought it would prioritize your life over the life of like a random person on the street.
It makes sense to prioritize the pedestrian because you have airbags and they don't.
Yeah.
Like, so even if you hit a pole, you have more likelihood to survive than they would if you just hit them with your car.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that they dodge the question because they have like Tesla and Chevy and other people that have developed their self-driving car systems. They of course get asked that question of, so if there's an old lady crossing the street, or like two people crossing the street,
don't give it the trolley problem.
It does. Like they ask what's it programmed to do if it's going to be like slamming into the old woman or slamming you into a wall and killing you instantly? And they dodge the question, which means it's going to kill you.
Well, that seems like the right thing.
You would think
that's
that,
like
but
that sounds like what the
seems like it'd be very
would
rare
want.
for that car to get in that kind of situation, to slamming into a wall, because it has a lot of safety markers. Like it knows what's up ahead and what to do before it reaches that situation.
Well, yeah, but if there is just the only situation is this, it's gonna like the way that it's prioritization is likely the fact of like least damage after, like, to a certain extent, which maybe that least damage or like the least potential risk to other things might be the case in where it's a higher result.
One family see you instead of two.
Well, no, it's like two people are gonna die or it's gonna slam you into a wall and kill you instantly. So it's either two people or you, and it's probably going to slam you into the wall, but they will dodge the question instead of answering because nobody, like, they've done consumer report tests where they asked people like, oh, well, how do you feel about a self-driving car that does this or like does exactly that? And they're like, oh yeah, I understand that. And they're like, would you buy that car? No.
It would give them the right to ask them, oh, so you want to kill an old lady and yourself, or potentially just yourself? So you want this car to run into that old lady and save your life instead of hers? Yes. Okay, you're a shit person.
Oh yeah, but nobody will almost nobody, when given the surveys, would agree to buy a car that would kill them over somebody else.
Yeah, but nobody would also agree that they're a shittier driver than a robot car.
Yeah, you're supposed to trust the average citizen to make that priority decision. Who knows what decision they'll make? Shit, they could take you both out. I think I'd still rather have a computer making that decision.
A person doesn't have the choice. A person doesn't usually have the time to make
that's
decisions.
A whole second thing. Yeah, like, still want the computer to do it because the person will probably just freak out.
I've seen how people drive, especially when they're sober. They're not good at it.
No,
I can't wait to be an old-ass man and just hop in my car and be like, take me to McDonald's, and it just rolls me through the parking lot, I'm smoking a joint. Like, those are the good old days. Those are going to be the good old days.
Randy, your balls.
Because what's even better? Because also, by that point, it'd still be, like playing away at some portable, whatever portable game at the same time while on the...
Right, yeah, like I'll surely, yeah, like, I mean, I know today you have to be behind the wheel in a self-driving car. I imagine at some point that'll become more relaxed. Maybe not totally forever, but like as an old man, I won't have to hire somebody to drive me around. A lot of old people can't drive themselves places. That's the major limitation of being a senior citizen.
I imagine it's never not within our lifetimes, because they're probably not gonna lax the self-driving laws, at least here, for another 60 or 70 years, and that's just because that's how long our cars now can probably last out.
Yeah, because we're gonna need to get all the people off the road before we get 100% AI controlling traffic.
First, you want to go to the more electric car, which is fighting the oil companies, which is going to take forever.
Yeah.
And then you get to the self-driving cars mixed in there, and that's going to be a whole nother battle. I always think of that Black Mirror episode where, she goes to the gas station. There's, so many different plugins for her electric car. She doesn't have the right adapters.
Never watched an episode of Black Mirror.
It's pretty alright.
Really? None of them? Some of them.
I like the first episode.
Yeah, they're good.
I don't want to watch a dude fucking
The first episode is way different from the rest of the series, I'd say, but still good.
It's mainly in terms of production value, but they still had a good mental concept about how people pay attention to the news more than what's actually happening around them.
I mean,
I've heard about a couple of the stories.
It was definitely the least sci-fi of all the episodes, I think.
I mean,
there was some hacking involved, but not
the most ironic thing about the whole thing is that, the most ironic thing about the first episode is that, what was it, 6-7 months after that episode came out, there were pictures there were pictures leaked apparently of the Prime Minister of England. Apparently, as a teenager, he had stuck his dick in a pig's head as a initiation thing.
Are we still talking about the story? The fictional story?
No.
We're talking about the real Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Wow.
And everybody was like, isn't this an episode of Black Mirror?
That's scary as hell.
Hey, could be where they got inspiration from.
That's what people were saying. It's like, oh, so some people already knew about this.
Yeah.
Which I guess kind of makes sense.
I wouldn't have fucked that big. I'd have been like, let him kill the princess. He'll be a murderer and it won't be my fault. And whoever tries to, whatever people out there try to be like, it's the Prime Minister's fault for not fucking that pig. I'd be like, fuck you. You go fuck a pig.
I am not within context. I'm not sure.
That's right. Like you were saying, you didn't yet. Like we said, this first, all the episodes are sci-fi, and this first episode's more I don't know, psychological thriller almost.
Okay.
But yeah, it's.
But apparently has a lot to do with fucking a pig.
Yeah, they hold the Princess of Wales hostage or something. And they make the Prime Minister. They're like, you have to fuck a pig on TV.
Live television.
And they make it real specific so we can't fake it in any way.
Right.
And they're like, fuck the pig or we'll kill the girl. And, of course, that's the whole thing. He does it, so.
Right.
But I'm like, nah.
The twist.
You're right. Maybe if I want to start watching it, I could probably skip
on
episode.
Yeah. And the twist at the end is that they had apparently sent her finger over. And then I don't think they'd even chopped off her finger. I think
it was the hostage guy's finger, the painter that actually did it.
Yeah, they had sent a fake finger, and then they're like, "Oh, well, you have until this time." And then turns out the dude's fucking a pig. They've already let her go before that.
Right? Yeah, she's wandering the streets while the rest of England is all inside the pub watching the Prime Minister fuck a pig.
Wow.
So he fucks a pig for nothing, and that's kind of the.
It's stupid that they got a finger in the mail, and they were like, "Oh, this is that little girl's finger," and they're like, "No, it's that middle-aged man's finger." How did you not know the difference?
I mean,
oh my god,
he was a painter.
The thing that gets me is just that
his greatest art project was making the Prime Minister.
Well, it's not that they believed that that his finger was her finger. It's like, okay, a finger might be a finger depending on the size. We all get full handprint fingerprints at birth, when we're born.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And if she's the princess of England,
and DNA
I can almost guarantee
only takes 4 hours.
Yeah, there is a lot of tests that would have been done on that immediately that they would have been like, oh, this isn't even her finger.
Yeah, especially if that whole series is supposed to be all about the weird technology kind of aspect for for their setups, as far as I know.
Yeah,
or at least a lot of the ones that I have heard of.
The first one definitely wasn't.
Yeah. But like all of the ones that I've heard of, it's like always uses technology as like the gateway to their weird psychological.
They always have something psychological or slightly political, and it's not like a woke political. It's very things that we already kind of know, but it's still interesting the way they implement sort of future psychological concepts into that as well. Mm-hmm. And the first one just laughs the technology, but it still had like a sort of message about how people pay attention more to the TV than what's going on around them. Because if there was anybody paying attention outside, they would saw her just walking down. There she is. There she is.
I thought you were supposed to be. I thought you were held captive. That's the whole reason why he's doing this.
Yeah, right.
Squeal. Well, there's a couple of episodes like there's enough episodes that aren't really that sci-fi. Like what is it? There's enough like episode 3 or 4, or is it season 2, where like the whole episode is just oh no, somebody recorded me on my webcam jacking off, and they're gonna release it to all of my friends and my employer if I don't do what they tell me. And so they start doing ridiculous shit this person's telling them to do through their laptop and through their phones.
Mainly through drones and laptops and stuff. So yeah, I guess this one's not as sci-fi. But
it's not science fiction, but like in science reality. Like they use technology in an interesting way to like blackmail this kid. And I guess the twist at the end is that one is that they released the information anyway. Yeah. And it was child porn. So it's like, that's why he cared. Because the whole time we're going, who cares? They saw you jerk off. Like, don't go commit crimes. But then it was like, oh, but it was child.
Also, who cares? Who cares to the point that if somebody has hacked into your computer and has recorded you jacking off and then is threatening you to release it, and then they release it.
Like, it's too late, right?
Like, one, it's too late. But two, even if it is child porn, like, you've got a lot of deniability to just be like,
oh, they hacked my computer. How do you know they didn't just...
Like, they hacked my computer. Of course, they put something, like, really shitty on the screen. Like, on the video of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that would give them a reason to confiscate his computer and maybe... see, more before the hacking of his computer.
Yeah, the legitimate authorities would be like, no, this looks like real stuff. It's on his hard drive. Like,
because even if, like, they'll take your computer away for less if there's any indication of child porn, even if you didn't put it there.
Oh my god. Okay, so my Final Fantasy 14 guild, or not my current one, but an old one I was a part of. There was this one really weird guy that would always show up and talk for a while when I first joined up, and this was years ago. And he was just this weird Swedish guy, and he'd always kind of talk, like, he'd always bring up weird like subjects. And like at one point I'm sitting in there and we're just all trying to do like a Final Fantasy raid, and he's just like, who's like Americans in here? And we're like, basically all of us. He's like, well, what do you guys think about, like, somebody who might be attracted, like, talking to a girl who's like 15 but she's almost 16. And we're like, okay, no.
Yeah, I guess in some countries the age is different. Maybe their culture is a little bit different.
Yeah, well, no, it turns out this guy was like, he had mental issues and other things because apparently he lived at some sort of weird facility, and he's just like, oh, well, like, one day he gets on and we're like, oh, we don't see you online on Final Fantasy. He's like, oh, yeah, I don't have my computer right now. No, the cops came and, like, they took it because they said that they, like, have evidence of this, but there's not. Like, so apparently I just don't get it back for another, like, 20 days until they're done with it. And then we only ever heard from him, like, one more time, and he's like, yeah, they found something. Like, what? No, fuck off. And then once we heard that, like, the guy who owned the FC was like, okay, that's enough for me, and just banned him and, like, kicked him out of everything. And we're like, yeah, that's enough. You were a weird guy before.
You getting Venice Bills?
Yeah. He was, like, a real weird guy before, and he'd ask all sorts of things, and we're like, this guy's not right. Mm-hmm. And then once he's just like, well, they took it and they claim they're going to find this, but he had like mental stuff. So people were like, maybe he's just kind of out there. And then it's like, oh no, he was like in his like late 20s, early 30s, and was apparently messaging like a 14-year-old. So we found out, and we're like, At least he wasn't doing that inside the guild. We didn't have anybody underage.
At least that, yes. What small graces there are, but... Yeah.
Well,
banning him was probably about the.
I guess he was doing that with a girl that lived in America, which is why he would ask us things.
Well, yeah.
But he couldn't travel over here.